Meanwhile, in Ukraine, President Zelensky has a new demand. He wants more military jets. He's talking about a warplane coalition. In the battlefield, he's on the back foot. Ukraine is struggling to hold back Russian forces in the east. Reports say Bakhmut is slipping. It's a strategic city and Ukraine is not being able to keep it. But Zelensky insists they've not lost. At the same time, he made a telling admission. He said Ukraine could be forced to withdraw if casualties pile up. They're calling it strategic withdrawal. It's a withdrawal all the same. Zelensky spoke about it in Poland. He was there yesterday to shore up support. Poland is a critical ally of Ukraine. And here's what Zelensky said.
We just need not stop in solidarity. When the battle requires artillery, it should be provided. When victory requires tanks, their roar should be heard on the front line. When independence requires air forces, we should not pay attention to how Russia will react to aircraft in our country. We shouldn't think about which number looks safer next to the letter F-16 or some other. It is worth acting. Acting in the same way as your leadership has proved itself in the tank coalition, and I believe it will also prove itself in the aviation coalition, because this is a battle for freedom, and it is impossible to win it partially.
Remember, Poland was instrumental in getting Western tanks into Ukraine. Now Zelensky wants it to lead a warplane coalition. Warsaw has already sent 4 jets to Ukraine and Poland's president has promised more.
4 migi były 29 z naszych zasobów, których jeszcze
4 MiG-29s that remained in storage have been handed over to the Ukrainian armed forces in recent months. 4 MiGs are now being given, so 8 in total. We are ready, as I told the president, to give 6 more that are currently being prepared. We assume they could be transferred soon.
Notice that he didn't mention F-anythings. Ukraine has been getting Soviet-era MiG fighter jets from its allies, but it hasn't received any American jets yet. And Zelensky is obviously not happy about it. Also because he's losing Bakhmut. This city, Bakhmut, is the center of the war's longest and bloodiest battle yet. For months, Russia has been trying to capture this eastern city. Moscow says it is strategically located for further offensives. Kiev and its allies say it's not that important. But they don't want to hand Russia even a symbolic victory. That's what they're saying. Russia recently said it had captured Bakhmut. But Ukraine denied it. It said the announcement was Russian propaganda. Like in any war, both sides are using psychological warfare to misrepresent ground realities. It's difficult to say who is speaking the truth. It's difficult to verify what the actual situation is. But Zelensky's latest speech hints that Ukraine could lose Bakhmut soon.
For me, the most important is not to lose our soldiers, and of course, if there is a moment of even hotter events and the danger we could lose our personnel because of encirclement, of course the corresponding correct decisions will be taken by generals there. I am sure about that. However, the more relevant ammunition comes to Ukraine, the faster we will be able to overcome the situation, not only in Bakhmut, but throughout the territory of our country.
He spoke of encirclement and correct decisions by the generals. That doesn't sound like Ukraine will last long there, if they haven't been routed already, that is. So Kiev is once again reaching out to its allies to help turn the tide. Without its Western allies, Ukraine could very well capitulate, and of course, Russia knows all of this. Moscow has slammed what it calls NATO's proxy war against Russia. President Vladimir Putin continues to blame the West in general and the US in particular for everything that has unfolded. This is what he said to a US ambassador during a ceremony in the Kremlin yesterday.
Relations between Russia and the United States, on which global security and stability directly depend, are experiencing a deep crisis, unfortunately. It is based on fundamentally different approaches to the formation of the modern world order. Dear Madam Ambassador, I don't want to break the serenity of the diplomatic credentials receiving ceremony, and I know you may not agree, but I cannot but note that the United States uses in their foreign policy tools, such as their support for the so-called color revolutions, support in this regard for the coup in Kiev in 2014, ultimately led to today's crisis in Ukraine and additionally made a negative contribution to the degradation of Russian-American relations.
He's talking about a revolution some 10 years ago. It led to the ouster of Ukraine's president, Viktor Yanukovych. Yanukovych was pro-Russia. He had to leave office. The US is said to have supported that protest. And Russia used this as an excuse to target Ukraine. It invaded Crimea back in 2014. Now, the US does have a long history of trying to force regime change, but so does Russia. It has been accused of interfering in the domestic affairs of foreign nations. There's obviously Ukraine. Moldova, too, recently accused Russia of trying to foment dissent. So meddling is not behavior that's unique to the US, and nor is it likely to stop. And as usual, we in the rest of the world will continue to face the fallout of these great power games.